Hey y'all, Coach Eric here. Just wanted to talk a little bit about discipline and how discipline in particular is what led me from doing predominantly personal training and group fitness training, in person, to shifting to what I do now, which is leading a consultation heavy online coaching approach. So it's very much discipline related. So let me explain. So I've been a trainer for over 13 years now, and one thing that I tell a lot of younger trainers is that it's easy to underestimate just how much of a total load, just how much of a total workload it is to maintain clients, and you really can't put a number to it. So for one trainer, 5 clients might be overwhelming. For another, 20 clients might be overwhelming. And it might not even come down to just the numbers difference. It might come down to maybe the 5 people that the person has all have really, extenuating circumstances or whatever. They have difficult cases to work around, or difficult, injuries or complex goals. And maybe the person that has 20 clients, maybe they're all on kind of a system, and maybe they're on an intermediate level for the most part. So maybe that's not as much work. But again, it just depends. It varies on the situation. One thing I can say, and again, this is what I'm stressing to younger trainers, is that for each one of those clients that you have, people are looking at a personal trainer for accountability, right? Accountability is one thing, but accountability in its most common form, what people are thinking about when they think about hiring a trainer for accountability, is the accountability of execution, right? And here is where the problem lies as far as the discipline. So imagine that you're, for anybody out there that's not a trainer, imagine that you're a trainer for a second, and you have the first person come up to you. Say you're a newer trainer, so you have first person come up to you, say they like how you look, they saw you lifting in the gym, you look strong. They're having trouble getting motivated. They used to work out back in high school, or when they first came in the military, or when they were younger. They used to look like this, used to lift this, used to run that. But they got this injury, they had a kid, they got a full-time job, and they just can't commit anymore, right? And so they want somebody to kind of unscramble what they got going on, and then get them back into a pattern. And, in a lot of cases, they want you to keep them in that holding pattern. And that's pretty typical trainer stuff. I mean, that exact type of scenario plays out countless times every single day across the country, across the world probably, and has for years. But what you've just done, if you are the trainer and you take on that client, the client that tells you up front that they're struggling with motivation, is that you're now taking some of your discipline that hopefully you have already as a trainer, and it's getting siphoned off to this individual who, by their own admission, isn't really the most disciplined, isn't really the most motivated right now. So that's part of your agreement. You need to help them with that. But it costs you your discipline, because not only do you have to make sure that you're taking your vitamins every day, that you're doing your cardio, that you're getting your strength training in, now you have to make sure that this other person is too, right? And yeah, it's your job, but at the end of the day, the more somebody can learn to take, and this is from the client, the more somebody can learn to take these really routine things and start to apply them to make them habitual, intuitive, the less they have to rely on the discipline of that trainer to keep them stable. The problem is that in most cases, the client doesn't look at it from that perspective, doesn't look at it from that mindset. They usually will think about it as, I am paying so-and-so X amount of money per session, per month, per contract, or whatever, and that's how I stay accountable, that's how I stay motivated. And in my opinion, again, this is over 13 years of doing it, that's the exact wrong way to look at it, because it creates a codependency, essentially, in a lot of cases. So you'll get the client that ends up being dependent on the trainer, because they're not really letting themselves dive to a deep enough depth to where stuff is like really sticking. So if all of a sudden their trainer change professions, in a lot of cases you'll see they just slide to another trainer. They might miss their old trainer, but they just slide to a new one that may go about things completely differently, and they're okay with that because they just want somebody to keep them going, right? That's not the best approach, in my opinion. When somebody really takes things to heart, when they really take the time to dive deep on their own fitness puzzle that somebody, a hired professional, is helping them with, it should stick. Because then in that case, either you hired the wrong professional that's incapable of articulating what needs to be done, the context, providing, overall blueprint and all that stuff. Either they don't know what they're talking about, or you're not listening. There's some sort of disconnect, because if they did know what they were talking about, did know how to articulate it, and you were listening, it would be the perfect melting pot of circumstances for you to be super successful and then super independent while still being super successful while that trainer moves on to impact elsewhere. So hopefully that makes sense. How that factors in is that at about the 10-year mark, for me, it clicked. And I was like, you know what? Now I see why I go through these ebbs and flows, because I'm doing really good. I'm riding high. I'm vibrating at a high frequency. And then all of a sudden, more people are attracted, and then I get more clients, and then I get more traffic. But I am getting people, and I was getting people that are like, look, I have zero motivation. I got all this stuff going on. And they basically want to get plugged into what they perceive or see as my discipline. They see me lifting all the time. They see me running. They see me fasting. They see me avoiding indulging in impulses, stuff like the impulse control. They're seeing the maturity. They're seeing the consistency, and they want a part of that. And I'm willing to share that. I'm willing to teach people about that, coach them on that, show them that they could have their own version of it and operate in their own optimal state of being consistently, right? But then again, that's a little bit of a tougher sell, I've come to find out. And so again, it's that realization of, seeing that the more clients you take on, the more you're renting out essentially your own discipline. And as I talked about in a previous video, discipline isn't a never-ending thing. It's a very finite resource. And not only is it a finite resource, but it itself runs on willpower, which is finite in itself, meaning it does run out. It is drainable. It is tappable. And so if you're using up, let's work backwards here. If you're using up a lot of willpower to stay disciplined, not only for yourself as the trainer, because you're still, the trainer in this scenario, if you're using it to stay disciplined, and keep your own self in order, and then you have clients after client after client after client, half dozen, full dozen, 2 dozen clients, however many clients you have, and you maintain to whatever degree of depth you're going, all of those individuals chip away from that, right? So it's going to cost you your willpower to remember to okay, I have to check in with so-and-so. I have to make sure that they ate the right amount of carbs today. I have to make sure that they're getting their 7-8 hours of sleep. I have to make sure they're taking their supplements. And again, that's your job as the coach, as the trainer. But it's your job as the client to actually let that stuff absorb, to be present in the moment, and actually really let this stuff sink in, because it's your own body, your own fitness puzzle. And you don't know if that trainer is going to be there in 1 month, 1 year, 2 years down the line. You don't know. So why wouldn't you want to become a master of your own fitness, at least as it pertains to yourself? No one's saying that you have to get a personal trainer or physical therapist like mindset, but you better have as good of an understanding on what you need to do to work out, exercise, fuel your body metabolically, get as good an understanding of that as you could possibly muster, and never stop working on it. Because another thing I tell clients, the most important thing that I've learned in now over 13 years of being a coach is that I don't know everything. And that one single fact that I keep pinned to the, my consciousness always keeps me in learning mode 24/7, or even 25/8, it feels like, honestly. And so yeah, I'm gonna cut it short here, but hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Younger trainers out there, if you're feeling burnt out, I get younger trainers or other trainers, in my inbox all the time, and they're burnt out, they're frustrated, they don't know where they're going wrong, they're still sticking to their routine, they're still eating clean, and they're just like, it's not hitting the same anymore. You know what I mean? I need to do something different. This happens on an almost daily basis, I kid you not, and I got trainer friends literally all over the world. And so I can say from my own perspective that over the past couple years, I've had trials and tribulations just like everybody else, but I've been able to find not only physical but mental stability through my physical abilities. And I'm telling you, if that makes sense, if that sounds like a cool little jingle and you're like, oh yeah, that's, that rings a bell, I should do that too. One, I agree, but two, you need to approach it from a sustainable standpoint, because then again, if you just get off the couch and you go from not exercising, not dieting, to all of a sudden you're following a diet closely, you're trying to, and you're working out 4 to 5 times a week, you're probably going to experience results. But is that sustainable? Because if it's not, if you can't answer that second question in the affirmative, you're in trouble. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but somewhere down the line you're in trouble, and that's if you don't get injured first. And so again, it all comes down to knowing that even if you hire somebody for their discipline, a fitness professional, metabolic professional, some kind of mental health professional, somebody to try to get you back on track so you could realize that mental, spiritual, and physical synergy, once you find somebody, start actually downloading what they're trying to tell you. That's the best advice I could give you. You follow that, you're going to see yourself operating at a whole new level. Trust me on that. You guys take it easy. Coach out.